Hello everyone, Mike Levin, Friday, September 30th, 2016 at around 8:20 a.m. and I'm heading into work, and this is my short part of the walk immediately preceding getting onto the A train, so that's only like a 5-minute walk. Part of the commute, still something I'm looking to cut down in the not distant future, this whole commute thing. Hopefully I can have fewer of these videos on YouTube because I will have less time to do them. That's part of my life plan moving forward. And I did some crossover videos where I talked both to you, the audience out there, and to myself for processing my thought purposes. And I realized as long as I've crossed that wall, as such as it were, I might as well say a few words about brand identity and what I'm doing here with this strange collection of videos. I am clearly experimenting. I did a couple yesterday where I realized I'm not doing as many of the talking head programming videos as I had done in the past and would like to do. I think those are some of the sorts of my highest value, but they actually take some energy to produce. It's not only doing the coding work and the thought work, but it's also putting in sort of a performance. You don't want to get things wrong too many times on the first take while you're recording, or it really looks like you're fumbling and it becomes something you don't want to publish. So you make sure you have a success, and then you shoot the video to go through and do it smoothly now that you have it clear in your head. And that approach takes time, takes effort, and I can't go publishing those out there all the time because busy life and doing most of this work, professionally now as a real component of my job. Thank goodness I'm actually sort of paid to be a programmer these days. And I would still like to broadcast something along those lines. And it occurred to me I'm using Vim every day. I'm just not coding in Vim. I'm processing my thoughts, much like I'm doing right here with these videos. It's just a different sort of form, a different media of me processing my thoughts. But it's very similar as I'm talking out loud to myself in my head. I'm typing it out in Vim. And this is different from typing it out in, say, a word processor like Microsoft Word, because you're in a pure text environment. There is no graphics. You rarely even need to pick up your hand from the keyboard and grab a mouse. Every command you might need to do in manipulating this text is expressible in almost yet another spoken language. We've been talking about languages a lot. Python is a language. English is a language, and yes, they are both codes too, because what you're doing is you are encoding information into a language, and language might have loose syntax and rules, and it might have to run through a human brain as the interpreter or compiler, or it might have to run through a machine as an interpreter or compiler, or a loom, or a player piano, or any of the many things that can be programmed with algorithms and code. So language is code, code is language. And one of the languages that's out there are the kinds that are embedded into other things to let you control them. I guess on the more popular side these days are things like cars and thermostats, of course, have their own embedded computers to do things more smartly than they could on their own. You have a better, longer lasting, cheaper to maintain over the long term product. And so text editors, an environment where you edit text, has an embedded language. In many cases, there's something called the text wars going on. It's Emacs versus VI, or more lately these days, Emacs versus Vim. And they're two separate camps because they're both text editing languages that have they're text editors that have languages built in, text editing languages. So you think in the text manipulation language of these editors, and you just get into the zone or get into the flow in a way that I believe is rarely achieved when you're using more mainstream products that almost force you to use the mouse. So when you like stop and recalibrate and recenter and refocus on your real physical body, you throw yourself out of the flow or out of the zone. This is why many people say using Vim helps you submerge yourself into that place where you get more productive. And it's part of the ongoing debate of text editors versus IDEs and such, with one of the great examples lately being how Michael Kennedy asks all his guests before they leave what's their favorite packages from PyPI and what's their favorite way to program Python, what's their favorite text editor or IDE. And, it's pretty much split, 40-40 between Vim and Sublime. And then the rest of the people, that last 20% is split over a variety of things, of which Michael Kennedy and several of his guests advocate PyCharm, which is an IDE in the free and open source community. It's also got a commercial version if you want to support them, but it's an IDE specifically written to be great for Python and cross-platform. So it's got a lot going for it, and it probably even has Vim key bindings, as many of these fancy text editors do these days that want to draw some of that Vim using audience. So in that light, I'm kind of on the fence. I'm a Vim guy, but I've recently been won over by Jupyter Notebook, and I know that the text editor in Jupyter Notebook has Vim bindings. So is it Vim? Isn't it Vim? Is it the same thing as mastering text editing in a terminal window? Are the plus sides of being on something a little more brittle in the long run? Because, Vim is going to look a lot like Vim 10 years from now, but PyCharm, we'll see. Maybe. But a lot of these things are come and go. How many people were on TextMate on the Mac and still are? They all moved to Sublime. So there's this forced flock movement when you're on the, fancy product du jour. But it's a long-term stability and ability to achieve muscle memory and mastery if you're either on Emacs or Vim. So I don't know how this talk became about text editors, but I got to get going into work. And so I'm making part of my identity, my online identity, achieving that sort of place in Vim, but also taking advantage of environments like Jupyter Notebook and who knows, maybe PyCharm to help, lead the way to computer literacy centered around Python and the education I have to help instill into my daughter. Yeah, that about wraps it up. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.